This indicates the desire of the Muslims historically to re-enter Spain after the expulsion of many of the Muslims, even while the kingdom of Granada remained there. They desired to return to Spain and conquer it. However, in the first and last acts of this play, the Muslims are in a defensive mode, first at Tangier and then at Fez. The frame of this work is focused on the motivations for the Christian conquest of Muslim lands, and not vice versa. Of the three unacceptable motivations for warfare listed by Victoria, all might be viewed as Portuguese justifications for the siege of Tangier. The first two, difference of religion and enlargement of the empire, are apparent, though not directly expressed. At their initial disembarkation, the first words of the Portuguese character come from Fernando's brother Enrique, and I quote, "Yo he de ser el primero, África Bella, que he de pisar tu margen arenosa, porque oprimida al ver tu huella, sientas en tu cerviz la poderosa fuerza que ha de rendirte." End of quote. El príncipe constante concentrates on internal rather than external warfare, though. At this early stage, Fernando is emotionally ambiguous, manifesting both bravery and fear. As he disembarks, he falls to the ground and exclaims, and I quote, "Válgame el cielo, hasta aquí los agüeros me han seguido," end of quote. Though this is frequently a theatrical bad omen, falling to the ground, in this case it is a foreshadowing of his victory through humiliation. He is an image of a biblical seed planted in the ground that in the end bears much fruit, his fall to the ground. Enrique immediately attempts to reverse Fernando's fear caused by what seems to be an ominous event, his fall. His words of encouragement and appeal to Fernando's passion for territorial gains are as follows, and I quote, "Pierde, Fernando, pierde ese recelo, porque el caer ahora antes ha sido que ya como señor la misma tierra, los brazos en albricias te ha pedido." End of quote. Shortly thereafter, Fernando instructs Don Juan de Simbración of Miranda to reconnoiter the land. Fernando states that, and I quote, "La he de ganar a sangre y fuego, que el campo inunde, el edificio encienda." End of quote. His thoughts temporarily align with those of his brother Enrique, thoughts of conquest of land, further land in Morocco. The third unacceptable motivation for war, according to Victoria, that is the personal glory or convenience of the prince, is absolutely central in the contrast made between Fernando's motivations and those of his brothers Enrique and Duarte and his nephew Alfonso, the future king of Portugal. Initially, Enrique displays good motivations, seeking the glory of God. In his response to Fernando's second expression of fear concerning bad omens, he shows a commendable mind frame, and I quote, "Esos agüeros viles, miedos vanos, para los moros vienen que los crean, no para los que duden los cristianos. Los otros dos los somos, no se emplean nuestras armas aquí por vanagloria, de quien los libros inmortales lean, ojos humanos esta gran victoria. La fe de Dios a engrandecer venimos, suyo será el honor, suya la gloria, y vivimos dichosos si morimos." End of quote. The motivations expressed by Enrique are righteous at the beginning, apparently righteous, seeking the glory of God in Africa. However, neither the spread of the faith, the spread of the faith is not an acceptable motivation in the just war teachings of neither Victoria nor Suárez. Spread of the faith is not one of the acceptable reasons for a just war. Though the first Portuguese skirmish with the Moroccans is successful, Fernando is taken captive by the king of Fez in the second. This appears to be a total defeat on the external bellicose front. In the second battle, the Muslims take Fernando captive, so it seems like a great defeat for the Christians. We're going to move forward to the exact midpoint of the play, which is central to this interpretation Towards the exact midpoint of the second act, as well as of the play, a sudden dramatic break occurs between Fernando and his brothers, not only in their physical location, but especially in their moral stance. In the first half of this act, Fernando is treated well by the King of Fez. Nearly halfway through the second act, Fernando returns to Fez from Portugal with news of the death of King Duarte. He reads the will of Duarte, which begins with the following words, and I quote, "En su testamento, el rey mi señor ordena que luego por la persona del infante se dé a Ceuta." In other words, the will of the dead king is to exchange their former conquest of Ceuta for his brother Fernando, Prince Fernando. This demand exposes the self-centered nature of the Portuguese royalty's colonization efforts. Fernando is enraged at the proposition and lengthily reprimands Enrique. Notice the center of his criticism is his family, not the Muslims. His wrath is centered not on the Muslim authorities, but on the Christian. He equates the giving of churches to Muslims, which would be one of the consequences of returning Ceuta to them, equates it with giving them up to the devil. He expresses fear that the Catholics of Ceuta might abandon the faith in order to retain their possessions under the Muslims. Fernando asks his brother, and I quote, "¿Fuera bueno que murieran hoy tantas vidas por una que no importa que se pierdan?" End of quote. He then tears and casts to the ground the sheets which have these desires of his dead brother Barca. He tears it, throws to the ground, picks it up, and eats the sheets of this will sent by his brother. He declares himself a slave to the King of Fez rather than surrender the now Christian city of Ceuta. The following words are central to his statement, and I quote, "Cristianos, Fernando es muerto. Moros, un esclavo os queda. Cautivos, un compañero hoy se añade a vuestras penas. Cielos, un hombre restaura vuestras divinas iglesias." End of quote. In great anger, the King of Fez casts Fernando to the ground, places his feet on him, and declares him his slave until the city of Ceuta is restored to him.